Evening, folks. My name is Mr. Harris. For over 20 years, I ran a small group home. Saw hundreds of kids come and go. Most of them, well, most of them I remember fondly. But some kids, they stay with you forever. They change something inside you. Tonight, I want to tell you about Sara. She was reading Dostoyevsky when she was 9 years old. Crime and Punishment, if you can believe that. But every single night, she cried herself to sleep. And I mean really cried. The kind of crying that shakes the whole house. Sara came to us in early October. I remember because the leaves were just starting to turn. She had these incredibly blue eyes, like looking into a clear winter sky. Her hair was dark brown, always perfectly brushed. Always wore these little cardigans, even in warm weather. The social worker brought her in around 3 in the afternoon. Sara didn't say much, just nodded when we showed her around. Carried one small suitcase and a backpack full of books. Heavy books. Books that would make college students struggle. I thought maybe she was just shy. You know how some smart kids are. Quiet, reserved. Takes them time to open up. But then dinner time came. We all sat together like we always did. The other kids were chatting, laughing, fighting over the mashed potatoes. Normal kid stuff. And Sara, she just sat there, barely touched her food, those blue eyes looking somewhere far away. After dinner, I found her in the corner of the living room. She was reading Anna Karenina. I kid you not. 9 years old, and she's reading Tolstoy like it's a comic book. Good book. I asked her. She looked up at me with those eyes. It's about people who can't be happy, she said, even when they have everything. I didn't know what to say to that. What do you say to a 9-year-old who talks like that? That night, around 11, I heard it. The crying. It started soft, like she was trying to muffle it with her pillow. But then it got louder. Desperate, like something was breaking inside her. I went to check on her. Knocked gently. Sara, you okay, sweetheart? The crying stopped immediately. I'm fine, Mr. Harris, she said. Her voice was perfectly controlled, like nothing had happened. But I could hear her breathing. Fast. Scared. Can I come in for a minute? She was sitting up in bed. Still had that book in her lap. Reading at 11 at night. The tears were still wet on her cheeks, but she was pretending everything was normal. Having trouble sleeping? I asked. She nodded. Sometimes the stories in my head are too loud. I sat on the edge of her bed. What kind of stories? She closed the book, looked at me with those incredible blue eyes. The kind that don't have happy endings. The next morning, Sara was up before everyone else. I found her in the kitchen at 6 a.m., reading the Brothers Karamazov. She had made herself a cup of tea. Perfect cup of tea, like she'd been doing it for years. Morning, Sara, I said. Sleep any better? She looked up from her book. Those eyes looked tired. Really tired. I slept enough, she said. During breakfast, the other kids tried to talk to her. Tommy asked her about the book. Lisa wanted to know if she liked puzzles. Normal kid attempts at friendship. Sara answered politely, but briefly. Always went back to reading. After breakfast, we had what we called morning circle. All the kids would share how they were feeling, what they wanted to do that day. Sara's turn came. I'm fine, she said. I'd like to read, please. That was it. Every day? I'm fine. I'd like to read, please. The school called on her third day with us. Said they needed to discuss Sara's academic placement. Apparently, she'd finished all the worksheets in about 10 minutes. Then asked the teacher if she could read instead of doing elementary activities. I went to meet with her teacher, Mrs. Patterson. Nice lady. Been teaching 4th grade for 15 years. Mr. Harris, she said, I've never seen anything like this. Sara tested at a college reading level. Her vocabulary is, well, it's better than mine. But then Mrs. Patterson leaned forward, lowered her voice. She doesn't play with the other children. During recess, she sits alone, just reads. When I try to encourage her to join activities, She says she's not interested in childish games. I asked how she was doing emotionally. Mrs. Patterson looked concerned. She wrote an essay yesterday about loneliness. It was heartbreaking, Mr. Harris. No 9-year-old should understand pain that deeply. That evening, I found Sara in her usual spot, corner of the living room, reading. This time it was Wuthering Heights. "Sara," I said, "can we talk?" She marked her place with a bookmark, looked at me with those incredible blue eyes. "Your teacher is worried about you," I said. "I'm doing well academically," she replied. "That's not what she's worried about." Sara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The other children don't understand the things I think about." "What kind of things?" She closed her book. "Why people hurt each other. Why parents leave. Why some people get happy families and others don't." I sat down next to her. "Those are big questions for anyone. I've been thinking about them for a long time," she said. "How long?" She looked down at her hands. "Since I was very small." 2 weeks later, I got Sara's file from her previous placement. Social services doesn't always share everything right away. Sometimes it takes time. I wish I'd read it sooner. Sara had been with her grandmother since she was 4. Her mother had died in a car accident. Father was never in the picture. Grandmother was a retired literature professor. Taught Sara to read when she was 3 years old. They lived together for 5 years. Just the two of them in a small apartment filled with books. Floor-to-ceiling books. Sara told me later that her grandmother would read to her every night. Not children's books. Real literature. Poetry. Classic novels. Grandmother said children's minds are like sponges, Sara told me one evening. She said I shouldn't waste mine on simple things. But then grandmother got sick. Cancer. Sara spent months watching the only person who loved her slowly disappear. She was 9 years old, sitting in hospital waiting rooms, reading Chekhov while her grandmother had chemotherapy. When grandmother died, Sara had no one else. No relatives who could take her. That's how she ended up with us. The file explained a lot. Why she was so smart. Why she seemed older than her years. Why she cried every night. I found her in the garden one afternoon. She was sitting under the old oak tree, reading Hamlet. It was a warm day, but she still wore that cardigan. "Sara," I said, "I read about your grandmother." She looked up. Those blue eyes were very quiet. "She sounds like she was a wonderful woman." Sara nodded. "She was the smartest person I ever knew." "She taught you well." "She taught me that books are better than people," Sara said. "Books don't leave you." I sat down next to her on the grass. "Is that what you think? That she left you?" Sara closed the book, put it in her lap. "Everyone leaves," she said. "My mother left. My grandmother left. It's what people do. Your grandmother didn't want to leave. But she did." Sara's voice was very small. "And now I don't have anyone who understands me." That night, the crying was worse than usual. I could hear it from downstairs. Deep, broken sobs that seemed too big for such a small person. I went to her room. This time I didn't knock. Just opened the door quietly. Sara was sitting by the window, looking out at the stars. Tears streaming down her face. "I miss her so much," she whispered. "I miss talking about books. I miss her voice reading to me. I miss feeling like someone in the world thought I was special." I sat down next to her. "You are special, Sara." She shook her head. "Not anymore. Now I'm just the weird smart kid that nobody wants." I stayed with Sara that night. Just sat by her window until she fell asleep. Took about 2 hours. But she finally stopped crying. The next morning, I had an idea. "Sara," I said at breakfast, "would you like to help me with something?" She looked up from her book. "War and Peace this time." "Some of the younger kids are having trouble with reading," I said. "Maybe you could help them?" She thought about it. "They won't want my help. They think I'm weird." "Maybe," I said, "but maybe they just don't know how to talk to someone as smart as you." That afternoon, I brought little Jenny to Sara. Jenny was 6, struggled with simple words. Sara looked uncomfortable at first. "What's your favorite story?" Sara asked Jenny. "I don't have one," Jenny said. "I can't read good stories." Sara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Would you like me to read you one? And then maybe we can practice some words together?" I watched from the doorway. Sara chose a simple fairy tale, but she read it like it was the most important story in the world. Made all the voices different. Made Jenny laugh. After that, other kids started coming to Sara, not for the books she read, but for the stories she told. She had this gift, you see. She could take complex ideas and make them simple, take adult emotions and explain them in ways children could understand. She still cried at night sometimes, still missed her grandmother terribly, but during the day, she started to smile, started to see that being different wasn't the same as being alone. 3 months later, a family came to visit Sara, the Hendersons. They were older, quiet people, both teachers. They had heard about Sara from the school. I watched them talk in the living room. Sara was reading to little Jenny, like she did every afternoon now. The Hendersons just watched, smiled at each other. "She's remarkable," Mrs. Henderson said to me later. "She is," I agreed. "But she's also just a little girl who misses her grandmother." "We understand," Mr. Henderson said. "We lost our daughter 5 years ago. We know about grief." Sara moved in with the Hendersons 6 months later. Last I heard, she was doing well, still reading above her grade level, still helping other kids with their homework, still missing her grandmother, but learning that love doesn't end when someone dies. That's what Sara taught me. That being smart doesn't protect you from pain. That sometimes the brightest kids carry the heaviest hearts. And that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry your love forward instead of your sorrow. Thank you for listening tonight. I have more stories to tell, if you'd like to hear them. Stories about children who taught me that resilience comes in many forms. That hope is often quiet. That sometimes the smallest victories are the most important ones. Until next time, good night.